And we're back, folks. Welcome back to the Jay Pitts Show. I'm your host, Jay Pitts, here with Ryan Harris. What's up, sir?
What's up, man? Just got
Wearing
out of
your freshly gifted Masters gear.
Yeah, thank you, Weston Faulkner.
I have mine over there.
I needed it too. It's cold in here. It always is, but
icebox, babe. You gotta you can't be warm and cozy and be productive. In my opinion, you gotta have a little edge, a little bite to the air.
yeah.
We think, no?
I typically agree.
Typically agree.
Sometimes I like to be warm though. I mean, if it's winter and it's freezing outside, I'd like for it to be warm inside.
See, yeah, warm inside's fine, but 65 is warm compared to the outside.
This is true.
I know that's a reluctant agreement, but I'm just saying when it's 10 outside, 65 feels good.
Oh, for sure.
And it's
it felt warmer
65.
outside.
It's 68 in this office.
It felt warmer outside this morning, being 51 instead of 40.
Yeah,
which I think 40 degree weather is perfect running weather.
I could buy that.
Perfect. You can wear shorts and a t-shirt still.
Light long sleeves.
Only thing I have to do, if it gets 40 or below, I need to wear gloves. Your hands.
I used to have
quick.
that too. At least in the beginning, my fingers would really bother me. The cold would, the rest of my body would be fine, but my fingers would be super cold. But after I was into a run for a while, and I don't run like you. So let me just say this. I would say the first 2 miles, my hands are cold. The next 3 miles, I was fine. Warm no matter how cold it is.
I don't know why I do this to myself, but I'm going to do the Derby Marathon again. And worst part about it is training starts in January sometime, usually mid to late January. And it's so cold the first few weeks of.
Sometimes there's ice on the ground and you're trying to find, it's treacherous out.
Well, last year, my wife and I went to Veronese on a Friday night, and we live in Crescent Hill, so not far at all. Left the truck, had a few drinks, and Ubered home. So I was like, it's okay. I have a 18-mile run in the morning, so I'll just pick it up on my way home.
Yeah.
And this was when it was the wind chill was -10 or something. I don't know. It was below zero, the wind chill. So I go out running, and you got to pick where you're stepping because there's ice and snow on the ground. I got my face mask on, and I thought my eyelids were going to freeze shut a couple times, and my mask from breathing is frozen from my breath and the water in my breath freezing on my mask. Get done with the run, get to my truck. It's frozen shut.
Can't get in it?
Can't get in it.
Ended your 18-mile run at the truck. How far from the house?
It's probably 1.5 miles.
But still.
Yeah.
Adding 1.5 miles to an 18-mile run when you don't expect it.
I can't remember how I got in, but I eventually got in after 10 minutes.
Oh, that 10 minutes. Wet.
And then
from your run,
I had to wait another 30 minutes because the windshield was frozen with ice and snow, and the windshield wipers wouldn't work. So I had to turn the heat up all the way as high as I could.
So you're just laid out in the cold truck waiting for the heat to come on.
Truck heated up pretty fast, but then I'm just sitting there waiting 30 minutes.
Dude,
to
brutal.
move.
At least you're sitting at that point. You're out of the elements.
Yeah, I was fine.
Dude, that sounds awful. Adding 1.5 miles run back to the house after an 18-mile run, soaking wet, freezing. Ugh, sounds awful.
And when you literally have to watch every step you take because of ice on the ground.
Yeah. I've said before, I trained for a marathon once. It's not for me. I finished it, checked it off the bucket list. Pretty much have knees that will not permit that anymore. And I ran the Derby here, so I trained for it under the exact conditions you're talking about. And it was brutal.
So I've been watching a lot of the MLB playoffs, and my wife knows nothing about baseball. I mean, nothing. So it's going to be fun answering all her questions once Rowan starts playing. But she was looking at the catcher. She was like, do they squat the whole game and play every game? I said, well, regular season, they won't play every game, but some catchers like catching certain pitchers during the regular season, yada, yada. And I was like, Jay has really bad knees from catching.
Well, I was.
There's some kind of supports they give you in the gear. Right?
But they work against what you're trying to achieve. And me specifically, being 6'4", I'm naturally probably too tall to play the position. There have been very successful. Mike Piazza comes to mind as like a Hall of Famer that was my size, or maybe even bigger. He wasn't the best defensive catcher. He was an offensive great, which is why he played so long and why he's probably, if not already, but probably will be a Hall of Famer. That'd be a good question. I need to look up. It seems like he should be.
What's his name?
Mike Piazza, Piazza, was a longtime Dodgers, Mets. Anyway, offensive just juggernaut for a catcher. Catcher is the lowest paid position in Major League Baseball, by the way.
He made it into the Hall of Fame in 2016.
Okay, so 2016, he should have been.
The second most notable thing to happen on January 6th.
Oh, gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, I've got bad knees, man. And they're called knee savers. They're essentially like a wedge, like a triangle wedge pad that gets strapped to the back of your calf muscle straps for your shin guards. And it kind of wedges in between your knee and its most narrow spot between your upper and lower leg, and then gets a little wider for your hamstring area to kind of rest upon, but it holds you upright. And so I had those, and they're great when you're in what's called the primary stance, which is like when you see a catch. This is baseball.
I feel like
lesson.
Most catchers have their knee on the ground almost all the time now.
These days they do, and I can talk to you about that. This is not a baseball podcast, but I could get really nerdy on this. So what's called a primary stance is essentially the catcher's butt resting on his calf muscles, right? On your toes. It's a more comfortable position to maintain for long periods of time. That's where you see a catcher give a sign to the pitcher from, right? The knees equally shield the base coaches from being able to see the sign. The glove goes on the left knee to kind of shield the sign even further. And then what you'll see is the catcher adjust, even with no runners on base, to more of a receiving stance, which is where a lot of them put a knee on the ground now. Certainly when there's no runners on base, okay? And that allows them to get low to the ground. So my receiving stance as a big, tall guy was my feet going wide and my knees coming in, but essentially my upper leg staying in the same posture. And you would almost see the insides of my knees rest on the ground. And my butt would be as low to the ground. Like my butt would touch the ground. So, I mean, you're contorting your body into like these really unnatural positions just so you can get low enough to where the pitcher can hit the bottom of the strike zone and the umpire can still see it. Otherwise, you're blocking the umpire's sight and you get less pitches, and that's just not acceptable. So a secondary stance is when you see the catcher kind of come up more, because they're afraid a runner's going to try and take off and go to second, and they have to be able to get out of the crouch to throw. But a lot of guys with the added arm strength we've seen in the game are throwing to second from a knee now.
Yep.
Because these dudes are freaks. And I could do that, not quick enough or accurately enough, but I had the arm strength to do it. Most guys don't.
Watching the baseball game, and my wife asking questions led to this whole thing on. Then we started talking about yips, and
my gosh.
When we've talked about your yips on here, and then I tried explaining it in golf terms, and she's like, just don't get it. And I said, that's the point of it. There's no getting it. It's just a mental block
it's a mental block that you can't stop. But anyway, cool start.
Yeah, there you go. There's your baseball segment. So I'm known as the kind face kid on this podcast.
Apparently.
Now.
Who said that? Hoagie's client?
One
of our agents.
Matt's team.
Yeah, Kevin Mercer.
Yeah, kind face kid.
Yeah. That was nice of him.
Yeah, it's nice to still be referred to as a kid.
Every once in a while. Well, I mean, Kevin's,
Oh, I know.
He's a little senior, a little year senior, so maybe he's earned it.
You said I was still a kid to you.
No, I mean, we were talking about other people.
Yeah.
And then what made me do that was I referenced other people that are not that much younger than you.
You're still a kid to me, but you don't act like it.
You don't. You act a lot older than you are, I think.
I would say
not in a bad way.
I've always been that way.
Not in a bad way. I think people used to tell me that too.
Yeah.
We were talking about people here in the office that are in their early 20s, which you're not. You're in your late 20s now. But yeah, I mean, I affectionately call them, kids.
Yeah.
And some of them act like it. But
For sure.
But they're good kids.
Yeah.
They're my kids, kind of. Not my children that I, spawned by any means, but they're my real estate children. They're my real estate children.
That's funny. All right, man. Let's hop into it. So, listener question this week. They said, this agent said, how do I sell myself to clients that need me to represent them? They wrote the question a little weird. So
that's okay.
Basically what they want to know is, how do they sell themselves to their clients that want to buy a custom home from a builder? Like, why should an agent represent
Why shouldn't
them?
they just go to the builder?
Right.
Right. Well, the builder's going to do a lot of heavy lifting, especially the large builders, right? They know all the specs. They know their costs. They know what they can and can't do. They know what questions the consumer's going to ask. They know all those things. And my advice is really in those situations, did you say custom home?
Custom. So let's say
Okay.
$700,000 to $1 million
Okay.
house.
Well, I started answering a different question, so let me finish that up real quick, and then I'll pivot because the answers are not that dissimilar. So when you're buying an expensive semi-custom, like it's a spec that has been started, but then you go in and you can customize finishes, or you're buying a lot in a large builder's neighborhood that they exclusively build in, and you're dealing with the builder rep and all that stuff. That's kind of custom, and that can be $700,000-800,000. It's pretty common actually to be at those price ranges. But Elite or DR Horton, maybe not DR so much, but Elite, Fisher, some of those builders actually get up in those $800,000 ranges. And DR may also. I'm just not 100% aware of it. So it's the same on that scenario as it would be in a custom build situation where you, let's say, buy an acre of land outside a subdivision, interview and hire builders, provide a plan or research and, purchase a plan and then have the builder build it. It's the same answer. You're not a builder as an agent. You don't know how to accurately depict, or you won't have enough information to accurately depict the cost associated, the timeline, affect that certain choices have, how the weather plays a role, what the lot lays out well for. You're not a builder and you shouldn't pretend to be, but you do know a lot more about the process as it pertains to the real estate in general than your consumer does. You are a shield, your protection, your, the same thing you are in a real estate transaction is you're an intermediary that limits conflict, that solves problems, that protects them from, disastrous mistakes, setbacks of time, cost overruns, etc. Right? In an example where I helped someone buy a house and the builder framed a home with 8-foot ceilings versus 9, I was able to negotiate a $25,000 decrease in the sales price on a very subjective change, right? So the cost of a 9-foot ceiling versus an 8-foot ceiling is rather minimal in the grand scheme of the purchase price of the house. It might be $5,000, in additional framing labor and material to raise this. But once it's already framed, it's a 2-story home and the second floor is already up. It would have been near impossible to remedy. So, it was worth $25,000 to the builder to keep the buyer in the contract moving forward. And I dare say, had they been negotiating that on their own behalf, the transaction may not have come off at all. But I certainly don't think, had they tried to negotiate a price reduction, that they would have gotten as much as using me, who negotiates these things for a living. So you're a negotiator. You're a problem solver. You're a shield against the worst possible mistakes. You're a go-between that escalates or de-escalates as necessary given the temperature, right? The tone of the transaction. So it's all those same things. And it's a little different with a builder rep versus like a singular custom builder, right? If you're dealing with a guy or female that builds $1.8 million custom homes from scratch, then that's tends to be a slightly different personality than a builder rep that makes 100 grand a year, selling new construction in a captive environment. So, but knowing that difference is something that an agent, I think, is keenly capable of. But it's the same outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah. I get that. I think that sums it up. Anything else you want to add, or?
No. I mean, I think it's a great question. I mean, we as agents become a little self-conscious in those situations because we're not sure how to add value, or at least those that haven't done it before. I think you just got to lean all the way in.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely
Show up.
easier to show your value on the specs. I think it can be a little more challenging on the
with a custom.
Yeah,
well,
sure.
I mean, because you're delaying the process. If you transmit every decision from buyer to agent to builder, you're delaying the process. You're an unnecessary step in that communication. It's more like, I'm going to go consult. I'm going to tell you, hey, you might want to think about this or that when we break and go our separate ways without the builder. Hey, your most costly, upgrades are going to be in the bathroom or in the kitchen or with your countertops or with whatever, right? It's telling them that, hey, maybe we should go on a cost plus basis versus a bid situation, because the builder's going to buffer the bid. It really depends on the scenario and what the client's trying to achieve.
I'd say most custom builders are cost plus now.
Most are. Some that are. I mean, if you bring someone a plan that's not that intricate, some builders will try to bid it.
Yeah.
But yeah, cost plus is the most eyes wide open, transparent, everything on the table way to go about it.
Yeah. This is a little off topic. There's a $2.7 million house for sale in E-Town right now. It's been on the market for a couple months now.
Is it on St. John Road?
Pear Orchard Road. Here up.
Pear Orchard Road.
It's 10,000 square feet.
Oh, wow. Whose house is it?
I don't know.
We probably shouldn't say it. Anyway.
Yeah.
If I knew, I bet
I do know, but
oh, okay, yeah, don't say it.
I'm not gonna.
That was a bad question.
Yeah. I don't know how many people are listening to this that would
that would know the person, but still, we still shouldn't put it on there.
All right, let's move on. So this is real quick. I saw it was actually an ad. I don't even know what it was an ad for, but it was the top states to retire in, and Kentucky made number 6 on the list. It said Kentucky boasts one of the lowest costs of living in the U.S. at 14% below average, which we've talked about a lot on this podcast, how people think Louisville's expensive, but when you look at the rest of the country, it really isn't. It says if you've ever been there or seen pictures, then you also know it's filled with quaint small towns and amazing nature. However, it also has high healthcare costs, and incomes tend to be pretty low on average. I think that would mirror what we've said on this podcast, how incomes are a little lower, but
healthcare costs are higher. That's interesting.
I don't know,
intrigued.
maybe dive into more to that, but it says there are plenty of reasons to choose Kentucky if you're looking for a place to retire. Sales taxes in the state is 6%, and the population sits at around 4.5 million, with 800,000 aged 65 or older. Oh, and we should note that while there aren't any large cities in Kentucky, the cities that are there are pretty vibrant.
Interesting. 4.5 million state population.
800,000 are 65 or older.
And I suppose that's a pretty high percentage, actually.
Yeah, that is.
So the reasons not to retire here, despite it being 66 on the list,
Cold.
is cold and healthcare cost.
Yes.
What? How do they measure healthcare cost?
It didn't have that.
It doesn't have it. I'm
Maybe
curious.
I can Google something and find.
No, that's kind of a shock to me.
Says Kentucky.
I mean, is healthcare cost consistent with the cost of healthcare elsewhere, and yet our cost of living is substantially lower than most places, and therefore, as a percentage basis, I bet it's something like that. I don't perceive healthcare costs to be substantially high here, relatively speaking.
Let's see.
I mean, is it that we have a high percentage of uninsured? Like, I'm curious about all of this. You know, we've
We're
got
not, according to Forbes, we're not in the top 5 for most expensive healthcare.
okay, but it doesn't
I
have.
don't know if they have a list for everybody. We're not in the top 10 either, which is good.
Okay.
And it doesn't have the rest of the list, so there you go.
Yeah.
It
Well,
does.
it's intriguing. I mean, it's a positive to say a cold state like us with very distinct seasons, very cold winters, is number 6 on the list of 50 states. Okay, so let's take a guess at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm gonna go.
I don't have the whole list, but I do remember looking at it. The worst states to retire in were like Florida, New York, California.
Florida being worst.
One of the worst.
Okay,
And I don't know why.
but it's the most popular to retire in.
Yes. For
Arizona is probably high, I would imagine.
weather. Yeah.
Warm and dry. I would say Texas is up there on the list.
Honestly, a lot of Midwest states were high.
We're high on the list.
Yeah.
Despite having colder temperatures.
Yeah. I guess they put more emphasis on cost of living versus weather,
Yeah.
which
I think Arizona's pretty expensive.
I guess depends on how much money you have. So
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
That probably plays a big factor.
Well, retiring to a location to me is synonymous with being somewhat wealthy. Like I feel like but I mean, people retire where they live in all cities, in all states. So, I mean, maybe that's the majority of people that do retire. But when you say the best places to retire, I think immediately of people uprooting and moving to a place for retirement.
Sure.
Isn't that kind of what you thought?
Yeah.
But maybe that's an assumption we can't make because people do retire
We
in
can
Louisville,
assume
Kentucky.
anything we want on this podcast.
We can make any assumption we want, but if we're trying to get at the heart of what this study says, not study, it's a list.
All right. I wanted to bring this tweet up, so let's move on. I guess I'm still calling them tweets, but so this guy said, if you bought a house for $500,000 15 years ago and sold it for $2.5 million today,
You'd still be behind
you'd
the
still
S&P.
underperform the S&P 500. I think people get amazed by real estate returns because it's the one asset they actually just hold for a long time.
All right, I got this debunked in like one
Well,
observation.
Do you want me to read the first response to it?
Whatever.
It might. I want to see if it mirrors yours.
Okay,
So this
I'll be
guy
honest.
responded and said,
It said 15 years, right?
15 years.
Okay.
So this guy responded and said, you need to calculate levered and unlevered returns. S&P compounded 500% in your time period, I believe. House was $100,000 down payment plus interest on 3 to 4% mortgage return. Return was $2 million plus after you pay back loan. People are amazed by real estate because you can't get that leverage normally on an asset that has done well, especially over the past 15 years.
Okay, that's absolutely true. Okay, but that's not where I was going.
Okay.
Levered versus unlevered is important. Okay, so let's say you bought, it's a $500,000 house, right?
Yep.
So you bought a $500,000 house, which was a mansion 15 years ago.
Yep.
Right? So, and it's worth 2.5 million now, so 5x.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't buy real estate with $500,000. You got to have $500,000 cash most times to buy $500,000 worth of stock. The percentage of people that buy stock levered is infinitesimally small. So it's just not a very good comparison. It's a headline. Okay. And that speaks to my actual point, which 15 years ago was 2009, where the stock market tanked. Okay. Or had just tanked. So relatively speaking was at its lowest point in quite some time. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like saying, if you'd have bought stock in March of 20, okay, you outperformed the real estate market in the last 4 years. Because, I mean, you could have bought all of the high profile tech stocks at 40, 50, 60% discounts to their previous prices and then rode the wave north to where they are now, which are historic highs.
Well, I just bookmarked a tweet a second ago that said it's the best year of the century for the S&P 500
This year.
this year.
and that was maybe the worst year, of that century. I mean, it's just it's the same century. I just think it's disingenuous. This is headline grabbing. This is engineering a headline and making a statement that I think is too smart by half.
I thought what was really interesting about the original tweet was he said, I think people get amazed because it's the only asset people actually hold for a long time. But that's what we've said on this podcast since we've been doing it. Yes, there are extra expenses when you own a home.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is forced savings.
Yeah.
That is what owning a house is. It's forced savings. You have to pay your mortgage. Yeah, you're paying interest. Yeah, you have those other costs. But it's the biggest asset you're ever going to own for 99.99% of people, and you are forced to save.
But I don't really even – that was my second observation when reading this. I saw it this morning, so it's funny that you picked up on the same thing. It's not even true, though. It's not the only asset that people buy and hold. Most people don't day trade stock.
Yeah.
Most people buy stock in a retirement account. They buy in a fund. Okay, they buy securities in a fund in a retirement account that they never sell.
Yeah, but I would say most people don't invest in their retirement.
That'd be an interesting question because I think the majority of white collar workers, and I'd say it is a seriously high percentage of white collar workers that invest in a 401k, at least a small amount.
Yeah, but I mean, I wonder what percentage of white collars versus blue collars own homes.
Well, I don't know. And I mean, it'd be interesting to know what percentage of blue collar workers invest in a retirement account too. I mean, I think you're right. But homeownership percentage is not 100%.
So according to the Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finances, 54.4% of all families have retirement accounts, leaving nearly half of Americans who don't have retirement accounts. So now I want to look at what percentage own homes. I think we talked about this the other day.
65.6% according to ChatGPT in 2023. That was just where I could get to quickest.
Yeah, 65.8%.
Yeah. So fourth quarter of 2023. So 50% of families. So if you have two, let's say you won't average two working individuals in every family, but let's say it's 1.5. So then you can reduce that 50 what percent?
54. Just say 54%.
So you can reduce that, okay, by 1.5. Right? So divide by 1.5. So that's 36% of working people have some sort of retirement account. If we make the assumption that there's 1.5 working individuals per family, and 65% of people own homes. Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I guess you could do the same math there because you have two workers in a household, in a lot of households that are homeowners. So those people aren't buying a house for themselves. So I don't know, man. I mean, I think the vast majority of people have some sort of securities investment, and they hold it forever, by and large. I don't think they sell. Now, I mean, maybe they cash out at retirement, but you may sell your McMansion and downsize and put a bunch of equity in your pocket at retirement also. So that's a cash out. So I don't know, man. I reject the premise of the claim on multiple fronts.
Here's some interesting statistics. So home ownership rate by state, Kentucky is above the national average at 67.8%.
That's cool.
The lowest being New York, Hawaii, and
that's because of the price.
California. New York.
What are the rates?
New York's 54.3%, California's 55.3%, and Hawaii is 61.3%. So every state's above 50%, which is kind of shocking.
That is very shocking. Well, I will tell you that. So a lot of people don't think about how affordable New York real estate is outside of New York City. Upstate New York pricing is very similar to here. So and there's a lot of rural area in upstate New York. Geographically or by the square mile or whatever, the majority of New York is
So
is rural.
Maine has the highest percentage, 78.8%.
That's wild to me. That's
Yeah.
a very rural population too. Maybe that has something to do with it. Affordability, I think, is pretty good in Maine. I think Hawaii kind of shocks me being higher homeownership rate than California and New York, considering the scarcity factor, how much smaller a landmass by comparison to their population, and how high real estate prices. I think real estate prices are on average the highest in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So
I know Hawaii is just insanely expensive to
Yeah.
just visit.
yeah, so interesting, man. This is good stuff.
So thought we'd bring up, we were on record, or I was on record at least. I can't remember what you said, saying it'd be the lowest voter turnout ever.
Yeah,
That was when Biden was running, though. So that holds
Game changer.
that holds no claim unless I'm right. But I just saw Michael Adams tweeted this morning. 131,000 Kentucky voters requested an absentee ballot by last night's deadline. As absentee ballots generally make up 2 to 4% of all ballots cast, this portends a massive overall turnout.
yes, absolutely. It's going to be a huge turnout, dude.
So
The campaigns have changed for the better, in terms of interest level. I think, and I say that not having a real strong affinity for either candidate. But I will say the more people that are excited about participating in the process, the better it is for us.
yeah,
I do understand the arguments that people would make is that, outrage tends to motivate, and having people voting because of outrage is not necessarily a great thing. But I would tend to agree with that, actually. It's not out of duty, right? It's not out of responsibility. It's out of outrage. If it is out of outrage, and we can make that assumption, that's unfortunate, but it's better than apathy. You know what I mean? People that are apathetic to the process or don't feel any attachment to the process, I think is the worst place you can be in as a society. So if it is a high turnout, I'll be happy about that. I've been following some of it. I'm fascinated by the sociology of it all. Like understanding what moves people to make certain decisions in mass, in groups, is fascinating to me. I've been following the Pennsylvania. It's very visible.
Isn't
online.
there like one county there? I think it's Door County.
There is a county that has predicted like every election on record. Whoever they vote for is who wins the election.
I would hate to live in that county.
The crazy thing about it though is in the 2020 election there was what's called the bellwether county theory. There's 20 counties that have like a 95% success rate at predicting presidential elections for like the last 100 years. Do you know that Biden won 0 of those 20 counties and still won the presidency? Won 0. Not he won 11, not he won 8, not he won 16, 0.
Wow.
So obviously this particular county in Pennsylvania was not included in that. But it's kind of interesting to see. But what I'm seeing in Pennsylvania, what it appears, there's this whole idea of the Democrat firewall, which is that they had, I want to say, 1 million ballots returned in early voting, absentee voting, prior to Election Day in 2020. And that gave them like a 500,000 or 600,000 vote firewall. That essentially Republicans would have had to overperform them by 500,000 votes on Election Day to win the state.
Wow.
That's trending at about like 300 right now. So they're 200,000 votes behind, supposedly, if you assume party line, because you don't know who the people voted for. You just know this many Democrats requested, this many Democrats returned, this many public Republicans requested, this many Republicans returned. The major difference in this election is that Republicans requested way more ballots and have returned way more ballots, and Democrats are doing about the same that they did in 20.
All right.
So I don't know, man. I obviously the pollsters, I don't believe any of that stuff.
Gotta look at the betting markets.
I don't even. Do you know what's interesting? I heard the other day, and I don't know if it's true. Polymarket, which is the one you hear the most, you are ineligible to to wager on Polymarket as a United States citizen.
Really?
This is what I'm hearing. I saw this on there and online somewhere. I would like to know that fact because it's a way bigger difference to me if foreigners, that sounds awful, if non-citizens, citizens of other countries are wagering based on their perceptions compared to United States citizens. I'm intrigued to know. Are you researching?
Well, I'm trying to find out where you can bet it.
There's another site as well that is gaining some notoriety, but from what I'm hearing, that basically there are limits, and so a lot of people are moving from Polymarket because they've maxed their bets to this secondary site. So pretty wild stuff, man. Who'd have thought that it would be part of mainstream news what the betting markets think of the presidential election?
But then again, are the betting markets trying to make money and have everybody put money?
Here's the thing. I ask myself this often. When you see a line, so like let's talk about Kentucky basketball. Neither of us are UK basketball fans, but we know how ardent UK basketball supporters are, right?
Yep.
So you're telling me that Vegas never skews a line on UK basketball, knowing how crazy the fans are, knowing that they can up their handle by manipulating a line.
Yep.
Is that what's happening right now in this election with people saying that Trump has the advantage?
Possibly.
Because his supporters will likely support him?
Well, I know when Trump and Biden last presidential election, the betting markets the day before
They swiveled.
Well, had like
The night
Trump
of.
winning.
Yeah. Well, they swiveled the night of. Like late on election night, they swiveled. They were like, 60-40 in favor of Trump, and they switched. And it was like a bunch of people were sharing this. Like, I don't know if it was like Georgia did a big vote drop or something, and it was like, oh shoot, like this is changing.
Yeah.
Anyway, It's pretty wild, man. It's pretty wild. I talked to you'll appreciate this. I talked to a good friend of mine that lives in Philadelphia suburbs, and he said it is absolutely wild in Pennsylvania right now. He says,
In what way?
Well, the ads is one thing, but he said literally Biden is campaigning for Kamala within 30 minutes of his house. Trump has been there for a week. He left for a day to go to North Carolina and came back. Elon Musk has been there for 2 weeks. Like Barack Obama has been there, all like within 30 minutes of his house. Like the McDonald's that Trump infamously worked to shift at.
Security is just...
He says it's insane.
Yeah.
Traffic is insane everywhere, all day, every day. He goes, it's nuts that this many people descend upon this singular place.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which, I mean, you've started to see some of the polls change a little bit where, like, it may seem that Michigan and Wisconsin are in play, which wasn't previously thought possible. And if that makes Pennsylvania slightly less valuable, but like everybody still seems to be descending upon Pennsylvania. Like, can you imagine living there through this?
It'd be terrible.
It's wild.
I think it'd be terrible at least.
I think it'd be terrible. It would feel cool to know that your vote matters, because we've never had that. Like, I mean, I guess you have it in a governor's race, when you have it in some Senate, well, I mean, not Senate races, but some House of Representative races here and there. But, I mean, we've had 2 Republican senators, and Republicans have carried the presidential election by 10 points or more. I mean, I think Obama lost by over 10 points in 2008 in Kentucky. I mean, Trump will carry Kentucky by 30 points.
All right, so you talked about Trump working at McDonald's, so I had this on the list.
I figured we would talk some politics today, but like I still don't.
Hey, we did a great job. We didn't sway one way or the other.
We're not. I mean, I think that's honest. That's where we stand.
McDonald's E. coli outbreak. Have you seen this?
No.
So there's been 10 hospitalizations, 1 death, 49 cases reported across 10 states as of yesterday. Most cases linked to the Quarter Pounder onions. Quarter Pounder has been removed from menus.
Wow.
And it was, when I looked last night, it was down 10% aftermarket.
Wow.
So I thought, let's lead this to a Mount Rushmore of McDonald's items where we go back and forth. We haven't done one of these in a while.
And there's 4?
We'll do 4 apiece.
Yes.
Let's do
we haven't done this in a while.
Let's do 1 rock, paper, scissors to decide who goes first.
Is it rock, paper, scissors, shoot?
That's the only right way to do it.
All right.
In my opinion, don't you think so?
Ready?
right.
Shoot.
I get to go first, which I don't know.
Ryan with the winner.
I don't know if it's good to go first. But I'll start. I'm going to go McDouble. That's number one.
Definitely wouldn't have been mine. Is that like just a double cheeseburger?
Yeah.
Is it the same as a double cheeseburger or is it slightly different?
I think it's slightly different.
What are the top? Because I've bought a lot of double cheeseburgers. I've never bought a McDouble. Never said, can I have a McDouble? If I say I want a double cheeseburger and they give me a McDouble, that would be news to me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Definitely, I don't think there's a true one.
Well, it wouldn't have been my number one anyway. So I'm going to go a little rogue. I'm not going to pick my favorite. I'm going to pick, I think, a value pick. Well, I'm going to pick it because I don't want it to be off the board. I'm going to go Chicken McNuggets.
The McNuggets. All
I'm
right.
going to go McNuggets because I think that's going to be a high pick.
Let me write these down.
It's going to be a high pick for you.
McDouble for me.
McNuggets.
Nuggets
They're
for
kind of
you.
gross. I'll admit that before I get a lot of hate. But, I mean.
So you get two.
We're snake drafting. Dude, I'm totally going to go. I'm going to go. I'm going to go McChicken. Number two.
That's a good one.
McChicken, and I'm not going light mayo. Just keep just like it comes.
All right.
Not light mayo. Shout out to Matt Hoagland. Light mayo.
Yeah. McChicken with light mayo is what he gets.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm going to go with well-known one. I love them. Not sure. You don't get your bang for the buck for it anymore, but I still like it. I'm going to go Big Mac.
Oh, that wasn't mine. So, yes. I thought you were going to get mine.
I hope you don't get mine. I'm saving for last. I actually would pick it earlier, but I don't think you're going to pick it.
I was
going to
pick one early. I was going to pick one first, but I didn't think
so. Do I get two now or just one?
I think you get two.
We'll just do one snake since I got to go. You go now. Let's
okay, and then we'll just go back and forth. All right, whatever. I don't remember how we did this in the past. I'm going to go ahead and take mine off the board because I'm afraid you're going to take it now, and I'm going to say filet of fish.
I love a filet.
Filet of fish would have been my first. And when you started saying the bang for the buck, because I feel like the filet of fish have gotten smaller and smaller.
I was going to pick that one. I don't know. I'm trying to go for the popular vote here.
Filet of fish is my favorite.
People either love it or hate it.
But like I'm a love.
I love a filet of fish.
I love a filet of fish when it goes like when it's Lent and it's like 3 for $4. I will eat 3 of those things.
I love.
But they're tiny.
I'm not
now.
Catholic, but I love Lent.
They're like sliders almost. They're so small. But anyway, yeah, filet of fish was mine. That would have been number one. I took the 2 chickens off the board.
All right. You have, I like yours.
You
more
like
than
my
mine,
list?
I think right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and take the one I was gonna take last because I don't want you to get it. I'm gonna switch up and go to breakfast.
Oh man,
Steak, egg, and cheese bagel.
Oh, okay. I've heard good things. Never. I'm a traditionalist, so I've never gone there. But I am going to go breakfast as well. So this is my last pick.
Okay.
And you've had 3. You got one more after
I
this?
get the last one.
Okay. I'm going to go sausage, egg, and cheese McMuffin.
All right.
And that might be the thing that I've eaten the most at McDonald's over the years because it is a 100% probability. And to go beyond that, you get the meal with the hash brown and you throw the hash brown on the thing.
There you go.
But those are hungover mornings usually, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, I mean that's college, baby.
Yeah.
Or you have a day full of showings and
and you just need something quick.
All right, my last one. I'm gonna go with the E. coli outbreak.
At quarter pounder, QPC
quarter pounder.
Quarter pounder's a solid pick. It's a solid pick, and that is a huge value at last pick of the draft.
It is.
It could have been up there for me. I try not to do burgers too much at McDonald's. But if I do a burger, it's either a double cheeseburger or a quarter pounder with cheese.
So, all right. So I have McDouble, Big Mac, steak, egg, and cheese bagel, quarter pounder, and you have nuggets, McChicken, filet-o-fish, sausage, egg, and cheese. You don't have a single burger. You got 2 chickens, a fish,
and a muffin.
and a muffin.
Hey,
I think I've won this.
You did not win this. McDonald's.
I have big hitters though. Big Mac, steak, egg, and cheese bagel, and quarter pounder.
No,
on my list.
I think the steak, egg, and cheese is a niche pick. I think that's a niche pick.
don't
You
think
went
so.
staples with the Quarter Pounder and the Big Mac. I'll give you credit for that. But fun fact: do you know that the McChicken is the single greatest inflated item in all of fast food since COVID?
I know it was on the dollar menu. What's it cost now?
Like $2.78 is a
bull-
McChicken
bull
these
crap.
days. Hold on, I'm gonna say I saw a tweet. So
Went from the dollar menu to the value.
I mean, it's bad, and I can't find the tweet now, but like it was comparing all fast food items and inflation, and it was like 99 cents literally, and now it's like almost $3 or it might be $3. But like there were a couple items at Chick-fil-A that were pretty high, but like the McChicken was like far and away the most inflated item. Like I wonder how that happens. Do they just like trial and error, like, and people keep ordering the thing?
Probably.
And they're like, oh,
Still one of the cheaper things on the menu.
I don't know why they're paying $3 for this thing, but I guess they're going to.
Yeah.
Like, so anyway, funny
Yeah.
stuff.
It's amazing what a McDonald's order costs now.
It's insane. It really is.
It is. Honestly, if you want the best value at McDonald's and you're drunk at night at your house, come back from something, they have on like value packs on DoorDash where you can get like 2 McDoubles, 20 nuggets, 2 large fries, and 2 large drinks for like $14,
What?
$15.
Interesting.
Pay your
I'm gonna have
DoorDash driver $5.
I'm gonna listen to that. I'm gonna have to research this. I've
Yeah.
not seen these things.
It's all sometimes.
I am a Dash Pass.
all right, I
member,
have.
though. Are you a Dash Pass?
Yes, because I get it through my credit card.
Okay, we pay for it because it makes it back in like one order.
Well, Chase Sapphire credit card, which is the one I use probably the most. If you link it to your DoorDash account, you get Dash Pass with it.
Interesting.
So it's pretty nice. And
is
you're right. If you do pay for it, you make it back in one order. Because the fees are like, I don't know. It's like $8-10 sometimes.
Shrinkflation Big Mac.
See,
That's
though,
like, that's like a Big Mac in like
that's a lot of
2019.
fun, though.
It's like I know, but it's like 2019.
Were you
now.
forced to watch that documentary in
Oh
school?
no, I wasn't. But
It
I've
might have
heard
been
I've heard it was crazy.
after you were in high school, or maybe right when you were in high school.
Yeah.
We were forced to watch it. What happens when you
Eat
I forget what
McDonald's every day.
the movie's called.
It's called Super Size Me.
Size Me?
Super Size Me. Didn't that guy die? I think he died. Anyway,
I don't know.
but
But
heck of a way to end
yeah.
the podcast.
All right. Well, let's end it with one more thing.
Okay.
Kind of real estate related. It is. Why do you think so many agents pace when they're on the phone? Like if you're in our office, agents are on their. If they're on their phone, they're pacing around.
Yeah, I think I think you hear things in sales like motion creates emotion, and like you're trying to simulate the energy that you can create face to face. You're trying to make the communication more impactful, and I just think that people think better when in motion. When your body systems are all firing at the same time, you tend to get better ideas. I don't know about you, but have you noticed like you get really good ideas or you get deep thought done well when you're driving and you're just like windshield time, or when you're shaving? It's this hyper focus place that your brain gets to, and I think motion creates something similar.
I do not get it when I'm shaving. That's interesting. I'm
Shaving
usually focused.
I shave a lot less now, obviously, because I have a beard. But like, I used to get like it's something like cathartic, like really, like repetitive but detailed and weird. I used to get good. I used to get a lot of.
Mine's a lot of times laying in bed at night. My notes app on my phone is just
I don't.
full of
I
ideas.
don't. That doesn't. I'm unconscious. I don't have that then. But driving, shaving, in the shower sometimes, because your mind is allowed to wander. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I take really, 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 really hot showers, and so like there's some like sensory
Do
thing.
you start it like a little cooler and then turn it hotter as you stay longer?
I don't. Yeah, at times I really like it, just like scalding almost. Anyway, I've tried the cold shower thing, and I can do it. It sucks.
Does nothing for me either.
I think it makes me feel good after, but like I have a hard time getting through it, and I don't. That's not what I look for out of my shower. I look for quiet.
If I'm ever doing any kind of cold shower anymore, it's just at the very end.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
And then I don't have to stay in it very long, and it wakes me up a little bit, and
Yeah.
I'm out.
I can see that. But I wake up and I go straight to the coffee pot. So it's, I'm always awake by the time I get in the shower.
Coffee pot and then the pot.
Yeah, probably, unfortunately.
Not that pot.
Interesting. Yeah, not this one. I love the people just listening wondering what we're talking about. No, that's interesting. Cold showers have always sucked. Really bad.
They suck.
All right, let's end on that.
All right.
All right, folks, we appreciate you joining in as always. Hopefully we had some interesting conversation. Hopefully you enjoyed the return of the draft, or the Mount Rushmore, if you will. Hopefully you got some good real estate knowledge too. Give us a follow on all the socials. You can find me at jpittsrealtor, him at ryanharris.re. We'd appreciate reviews, follows, shares, anything you could show us on the Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anywhere you podcast for that matter. We just appreciate you engaging with the show and tuning in each week. But that's all we've got for now. We'll catch you next week on the J Pitts Show. I'm your host, Jay Pitts. For Ryan Harris, we'll see you soon.
Peace.